Well, anyways, folks, we're back here with another episode of Skeet Scores. Eli has pointed me towards a Kat Blaque, or Black, or Blaque. I don't really know how to pronounce her name, and I don't really care. We'll be watching a video called Women Against Feminism, where she expresses her perfect and flawless opinion.
True tea. Your questions, my brutal honesty.
She manages to cut off her head in her intro.
Hey guys, it's Kat and it's time for your weekly dose of True Tea. I'm still drinking some Camilla Loon tea. It's quite delicious.
We're skipping ahead now because she does a long rant about tea for some reason.
Anyway, let's jump right into today's question.
Hey Kat, I just started university and it's opened my eyes to many things, especially feminism.
For this entire segment of reading, the text will slowly fall behind the voice, and it is extremely annoying.
And I'm currently living with a friend of mine who's a woman who is essentially an anti-feminist. She believes that feminism in Western cultures is a waste of time.
That's because modern feminism is a waste of time.
That there's such a thing as reverse racism, and that rape culture is a myth.
Where is this woman? I want to have a talk with her about anti-rape culture.
I've tried explaining to her how her views are problematic at best, but she ignores me and sticks with her perspective like a stubborn mule.
Gee, I just hate when people have differentiating views from me. It's almost like they have an opinion or something.
Whenever I try to voice my thoughts on gender issues with her, she sounds more like a men's rights activist and only talks about the struggles of men despite having faced sexism herself.
If she's faced sexism herself and she's still against modern feminism, I think she's onto something.
I can understand her views to an extent because I was once against feminism and I truly didn't understand how deeply ingrained racism was in our culture.
Whoa, back up. When did feminism and racism suddenly become part of the exact same argument?
But the difference is that I was only 13 when I had these views.
Saying that you had these views when you were 13 doesn't make them any less valid now.
I just can't believe that an intelligent adult could be so ignorant when things have been explained to her so clearly.
Clearly you're being ignorant because she's trying to explain something to you and you're not listening because you also have an opinion.
I don't know if she genuinely believes in the things that she says or whether she deliberately ignores these issues in order to make her life easier.
Yes, ignoring sexism would make her life so much easier if it were prevalent in modern day.
It's exhausting and I've gotten to the point where I don't even want to spend time with her because the things that she says so deeply offend me.
If I didn't spend time with people just because their opinions were different than mine, I would never spend time with anybody.
It's gotten to the point where I'm almost giving up on trying to explain things to her.
Good. You trying to explain things to her is clearly a problem for your friendship life.
I know that it'll just end up in a massive argument, yet I feel like I can't ignore it with her words taking a toll on my happiness and mental health.
Why does she have to believe the exact same thing that you believe for you to be happy?
Any tips on what I should do?
I've got a tip. Stop being a raging psychopath and let your friend have their own opinion.
Alright, so this is going to be another one of my typical Kat Blaque unpopular opinion responses.
Aw man, I was totally expecting a Morgan Freeman response this time.
So y'all brace yourselves. Here we go. Here's how I feel. I think that a lot of people get very caught up in the label of feminism.
Isn't that kind of the point here? She didn't want to be called a feminist because she didn't want to identify with all the beliefs of modern day feminists.
I don't really think that it is important for everyone to call themselves a feminist, to identify as a feminist, to present their work as a feminist work.
You got that right.
Here's what I will say though. When I meet women who are very distinctly like anti-feminist and like don't want to support women's issues, don't want to fight for women's rights, like don't care about what feminism has done for them.
Okay, what feminism has done for them and what feminism is doing for them are two completely different entities.
Like, people love to sit around and reap all of the benefits of feminists and their work and things like that.
Yes, they do like to reap in those benefits because sexism has taken a toll since the old feminists.
And then sit around like, what's important about why? Meanwhile, you are literally sitting at a better place in society now because there were feminists, right, who fought for your right to be able to do so.
You're explaining the importance of the history of feminism, but you're not explaining any important reason why we should have modern feminism.
And, you know, in terms of your roommate, like if I was dealing with someone like that who I could just tell was never going to get it, I would not bring it up at all.
That's a good plan. It's a good plan.
But I always really enjoy the community that you get among women in bars, because we always, usually, most of the time,
Usually, most of the time.
look out for each other, right? And there's been a couple of times where I've met women at bars and we're talking and we get into these deep feminist conversations, and I just can't have those conversations with men on average, usually.
Well, that's incredibly sexist. I'm gonna go tell my masculinism club.
I think some people have a very contrived idea of feminism.
I think most feminists have a very contrived idea of people.
A lot of MRA types, men or women, all they do is regurgitate conversations, rebuttals that they've had.
Regurgitate, or, just repeating information they've already learned, which is what you do when you learn.
A lot of people will, take the most extreme versions of feminism and prepare these pre-prepared points.
Yes, that's called looking at the facts and preparing an argument.
But listen, I get non-stop people trying to rebuttal points that I never made about the wage gap.
There's a reason for that. There's a feminist culture that constantly complains about the wage gap.
Because all they do when they talk about feminism is talk about it in their own little circle.
That's what you're doing right now. You're not going to care if my circle comes over to your circle and says, hey, my circle's right. Your circle's going to stay exactly the way that it is.
Right? And so it's frustrating. It's frustrating. It's maddening. I'm just like, ugh, stop.
Kind of like how I feel about this video.
So I just wouldn't engage. Honestly, I know that's your roommate and your friend, whatever, but girl, I wouldn't engage in that conversation. Doesn't mean you can't be her friend.
That's right. It doesn't mean she can't be her friend. She can just stop talking about it.
That people do tend to ignore certain things because it is more comfortable.
There's a saying for this. Don't fix what ain't broken.
To just live in this world where everything is fine and there are no issues. Like, it's more comfortable to not be aware of these things. When you talk about this stuff, it's really uncomfortable. I have a really hard time understanding how women can live in a society and not understand that sexism is a thing.
I don't understand how you can live in this culture and think that sexism is only a thing for women. Well, that was all the relevant nonsense on there today. Our final count for Amazingly Foolish Fumbles is around 57, I believe. Check out our other videos, have a great time, and goodbye forever until later.